Hi folks, and welcome to this video, which is a custom and electronics project video using this zoomer Hedgiez. So this was the original fur on this Hedgiez, and I made a new fur cover for it using this fur. So I unpicked the original fur as it's made up of 3 pieces of material and it's sewn here and here. So I unpicked it and took a pattern of those 3 pieces, cut the 3 pieces of fur out, and I've sewn them together. And that's how it's looking. So next I need to glue the edges around the plastic shell. Probably going to use Evo stick to do that. And as well as finishing that fur covering, we've got some brown spray paint, and we're going to spray paint the pink plastic parts on the hedgehog. So the legs and this part of the casing. I don't think you actually see this part of the casing. I think it's just the piece of casing underneath that we'll need to spray with the brown paint. We're also going to change the LED eyes. The eyes are currently green, and we're going to change them for amber eyes. And you may have seen in a previous video that we replaced the push button switch in the nose for a sound board so that the switch is activated by sound. But the soundboard has got a light on it, and we found that the light actually means that when it shines through the plastic you can see some of the workings inside. So we need to cover that light up either with paint or tape. And the other thing was that because the mic is under the casing, it's sort of affected by the noise of the toy's motor inside the casing, and it doesn't pick up the sound as well as it could from outside. So the last thing we're going to do with it is to separate the microphone from the board and extend the wire to it, to the board, and then have the microphone somewhere close to the surface of the face with maybe a little hole in. So I've started gluing the fur to the plastic moulding that goes on the back now. I've glued it on the sides, and next I'm going to glue it around the front part of it, the bit that goes around the edge of the head. So this is it with that bit glued, and it's a nice neat job. Used Evo stick for that. Unfortunately we've run out of Evo stick, so I've had to do the last bit with a sort of Bostik type glue. I don't think it's as neat, but I think it will be good enough to hold it. I've removed this part of the hedgehog shell and the 2 front legs, but this part's trickier, so Paul's taking all the guts out of that part, aren't you, Paul?
Yeah, so the first thing we'll take out, the plugs and sockets, the speaker one. Oh, this is something we've connected to, isn't it? It's been the nose switch. The 2 lights called D1 and D2. That's purple and grey, that one. That went into D1, D2 is white and grey. There's a white wire coming from the touch sensor on the forehead, and it goes to S2 on the circuit board. So I'm just going to snip that off because I don't have a soldering iron with me. So now the head's free. So we've got to undo the screws that will release all the mechanism bits and the circuit boards. So we'll start with this side piece here. 2 screws out. This comes off, and then this component, which is allowing the power wires to come through the side, comes out. Continue releasing the screws. Taking the 2 screws out that secure the main circuit board. Those are quite short and they've got a built-in washer under the screw head, those screws. I'm going to take this spring out, which is a return spring for a nose mechanism. That's out. The circuit board's now loose. I'm going to undo 2 screws at the bottom here that release the, is that the, yeah, it's the switch, little switch printed circuit board.
Yeah, the main switch to switch it on and off.
Yeah. Those are 2 short screws, but they don't have any washers under them. That's come out. So now it looks like the screws that hold the main motor mechanism to the body. Lifts out. We've got an orange wire that goes from S3 on the main circuit board to the belly touch sensor, and I'm just going to snip that wire. So we'll snip it at this end. Okay, so that's what we're left with.
Is that a speaker?
It is, yeah. So that'll have to come out. Oh, it just lifts out, that's good. It's a little speaker. So this is the bit we want to spray paint. And it's just spray paint on the outside, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're just taking the back feet apart now.
Yeah, we take the back feet off, we take them apart, because these will need spraying, but we don't want to clog the wheels up in them. We'll just have a look how this looks inside when we take it apart.
That's been cleaned, hasn't it? Or
Yeah.
has it?
Yeah, it has been cleaned, I think. Okay, so all the screws and the ratchet mechanisms out. Right.
So this is the spray paint that Paul used. The cap is the colour that it is. It's just called brown gloss, and it's specifically for spraying plastic. And here's the parts that you sprayed. That's the underneath of the hedgehog. That's the top of the hedgehog. That's a front leg. Those are back legs, aren't they? Back feet.
That's right, yeah.
The nose looks great. And that's the other front leg. The shade on the top of the can, when you put it next to the shade it came out, it is a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more chocolatey on the can.
Yeah. Well, I think on the can, it's like it's got more red in it than the finished result, and the finished result is darker as well. They never seem to be able to get the tops the right colour. I don't know why. Would be best if they actually sprayed them with the paint,
it would be,
wouldn't
it?
it?
Yeah.
So that's it with both halves together. Looks good, Paul.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, doesn't it?
So is that actually dry now?
It is, yeah. It's touch. Well, it is dry to touch, but it's probably not as hard as it will be in a couple of days' time.
So that's what it looks like against the fur. I think it looks good.
Almost like a real hedgehog.
I don't think it'll look like a real hedgehog. I've taken the silicone face off the head here because I'm going to try to make a latex mould from it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I thought, why not try? Why not experiment?
Experiment, yeah.
If it doesn't work, there's nothing lost. This looks pretty freaky actually without that face on it. It looks very much like a little robot, don't you think?
Yes, it does, doesn't it, without the rubber face on it.
So before I show you what I'm doing with that face, let's have a look at the inside. So this is basically everything that was inside the Hedgehog, is it not?
It is, yeah. It's the main circuit board and our additional sound sensor board on top of it there, which is this one with the microphone.
Whilst that's all been taken out, would it not be a good time now to see if you can separate this mic and put it on some wire, like?
Yes, it would, yeah.
So that we can
locate it in a suitable position on the model, away from internal sounds, but able to pick up external sound fairly easily, yeah.
So that's our soundboard that we added. This is the main circuit board.
Yeah.
Are these green things capacitors?
They are.
That's the on-off switch from underneath.
It is, yeah.
So we've got 3 blobs of resin there. So presumably the large one is a microcontroller.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Any idea what the other 2 could be?
They could be extra microcontrollers of a lower power, or they could be custom logic setups that replace a lot of individual logic chips.
What about this little component here, Paul?
Sometimes they have little logos on them, which will give you an idea. So that's labelled up as U3, which is normally the terminology for a transistor.
Are these separate chips here, or separate components?
Yeah, they're marked up as Q. There are a bunch of transistors. This is actually an integrated circuit. I think the U is indicates an integrated circuit, and the Q indicates a transistor or field effect transistor. And then the rest are just capacitors and resistors of the small service mount variety.
So the rest of it is made up of the motor, and then this plastic moulding here, which houses the motor and also the mechanism for
the gearbox. The reduction gearbox is here. So
of course, it
steps down the motor speed through the reduction gearbox. It greatly increases the torque available, which is what you need in toys.
And then we've got this sliding mechanism here,
which is like
for operating the nose.
It's like tapping off some of the rotary motion off here, which is used to drive the Hedgehog. Taps some of it off, converts it to a linear motion to press the nose.
So does this go into the side of the
It does.
Hedgehog?
That's the main.
That's what makes it turn.
That's right. Yeah, that's geared down and torqued up through the gearbox.
So that's the main moving part, isn't it?
It is, and on the back of that you can see
potentiometer,
which is linked into that, mechanically linked to that. So when this turns the shell, it also turns the potentiometer, which is feedback to the microcontroller circuit. So it knows, the Hedgehog toy knows whereabouts it is in the rollover motion.
I didn't see that connection before, that's like directly sort of connected into that.
That's right.
Over the series of videos we've done, where we keep taking these apart and doing different things, it's like you get more and more familiar with them, don't you?
Yeah, they become easy to take apart, easy to put back together.
But it becomes easier to understand exactly what.
You can
sort of how it's constructed, what it's made up of.
Yeah, and you can see how the parts fit together and work together.
So you're going to work on extending that wire now, Paul.
Okay, so the first thing to do is to desolder the microphone. First thing to do is to cut it out first, I think.
Tiny, isn't it?
The microphone capsule, yeah, it is, isn't it?
So you need 2 pieces of wire.
Yeah, one to go to the outer body of the microphone capsule, and the other piece of wire, the red piece of wire, to go to the other terminal. It's a 2-terminal device, the microphone. So we'll get those old wires off first. These bits of wire here, I thought they were soldered to the pads. That's normally the case, but it looks like they might be
part of the casing.
Well, not part of the casing, but sort of on the circuit board.
On the circuit board,
yeah.
Right.
They're not coming off when I try and desolder them.
So those two pieces of wire are soldered to the connections on the microphone now.
Yeah.
So you called this a microphone capsule.
Right.
What's the difference between a microphone and a microphone capsule?
So a microphone you would see as something that somebody holds in the hand.
Right.
It's like a finished product.
Right.
A microphone capsule is something that you would find inside a microphone.
Oh, right.
Although it's a bit loose, the terminology.
Yeah. So what is actually inside that microphone capsule?
So this is called an electret. I think that's the way you pronounce it, an electret microphone capsule. There are different types. There's another one called a dynamic one, and perhaps one or two others. I can't remember at the moment. But this has got a charged. It's got a film of plastic which is charged, very thin film of plastic which has got like a static charge built into it. The way they make it. And when the sound wave hits it, it moves this plastic film, and that movement of the plastic film with the electric charge on it is amplified by some small electronics inside the back of the microphone capsule, and then the signal is passed out of the back of the microphone on these wires. It's like a low voltage signal. But it's had a little bit of amplification inside the microphone capsule.
So if you were to take that microphone capsule apart, what you would see inside is a thin piece of plastic film. Mm-hmm. Would you see any? Is that all you would see?
Perhaps on the reverse side of this circuit board, you would see one or two very small electronic components, surface mount things, very small ones.
I think in a future video, I'd like to see the inside of a microphone.
We could take one apart, yeah. So the head will be roughly here, won't it? And the circuits with the mounted back in the body will be roughly there, won't
Yeah.
So something like that length should be okay, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'll cut it off like that. And then we'll solder this.
So you're soldering the wires back onto the board now?
Yes.
Onto the sound board?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are those red and black wires, Paul, going to that board? So is it passing data?
It's passing a small analog voltage signal.
Along which wire?
Both.
Both?
It's with one with reference to the other.
Right. So the next thing we're going to do is put a dab of paint over that LED.
Well, there are two. There's one for the power.
Uh-huh.
And there's one for when the sensor's triggered, and
right.
They shine through the body, don't they?
Yes.
We don't want that. So
those look very small, Paul.
They are the surface mount LEDs. Yeah.
Oh, they're the white thing.
Yeah.
The little white component. Those are so tiny. Tiny.
So we don't want the light to show through, so we'll put a blob of black paint on. Mm-hmm. That should do it, shouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, even if it didn't block it out 100%, doesn't matter. Just to take like the bulk of it off would be enough.
Okay,
so it's not shining through the plastic.
We'll see what that's like next time we turn it on.
And also the plastic, of course, is painted brown now, which is darker.
Yeah, so it's not. Yeah, that's right. It's
it's
unlikely to show through that black paint on the brown plastic.
So, Paul, you're replacing the LEDs now.
Yeah.
The original LEDs were green, and you're replacing them with orange or amber LEDs.
Yeah.
And you're using these notes that you made last time you replaced some LEDs to know what wires go where.
Yes, it makes it easier.
On the circuit board, we've got the purple and grey route wire plugs into D1, and on the circuit board, the white and grey wire plugs into D2.
Although it doesn't really matter which way round those go, but what's more critical is that the grey wire goes to the long leg on the LED, and the other colour goes to the short leg.
So you're doing the purple and grey wires first.
Yep.
Now, how do you know that you've put that in the right side?
What, that LED?
This one, the first one you put in, how do you know that that was on the right side?
Well, it doesn't matter really. They're just two amber LEDs.
So it doesn't matter which way?
D1, no, in this particular instance, no. D1 could be swapped over with D2 because they're not lit in any sort of independent pattern. They both.
So why do they bother with having different coloured wires then and marking it up on the circuit board differently?
Well, the different coloured wires, right, okay. So the LEDs are polarised, so the negative side of the LED,
the grey,
I think,
the long leg.
Yeah, I think the negative is the LED, and that's goes to the grey. So it's got to be connected that way.
But why use one purple and one white wire? Why not use two white wires or two purple wires?
Yeah, there is no reason.
Because I thought it was critical.
Well, if the two LEDs that have been doing something different in the hedgehog's eyes, it would have been important, but it's not.
I wonder if it's just like a matter of course.
It is a matter of course, yeah, to make everything distinctly labelled, even though it doesn't matter if you swap D1 round with D2 in this particular case.
Right.
But you're quite right, it is a matter of course to make everything distinctly and uniquely labelled. Okay, so that's the LEDs in. Now, this has got to go in first, doesn't it? Metal shaft goes in there.
Oh, yeah.
And then that rests in those two grooves there. It acts like a pivot. And then when the eyes go back down on it, it keeps it clamped in position.
I remember that now.
So it's a dual purpose bracket, this, isn't it? It's holding the lights and also keeping the nose in position as well.
Got a bit of engineering.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So next you're going to power this up, Paul, to see if everything's still working.
Yeah.
The soundboard and also the new LED eyes.
Although we have to plug these in first, don't we? Okay, so that's the eyes plugged in. Here we go.
Well, the eyes are fine.
Okay. Now, is the speaker connected or not? Because we need.
No, you took the speaker off.
We need the speaker connected to test the microphone, don't we? Reconnect the speaker then. Hello. Hello. Hello, little hedgehog. What's not connected at the moment? Anything? A switch. Okay, we've not plugged it in, have we?
We've just realised we've not plugged in the soundboard, so no wonder it wasn't triggering the nose switch.
Right, okay, there we go. Hello.
Oh, that's nice and sensitive. Yes. Right, so everything's working. So you can start assembling, reassembling. I think the last thing that you disassembled was the feet.
So then we can take these bits of plastic out that were used to stop the paint getting in there. Little ratchet mechanism back in the wheel then. 2 ratchet mechanisms and 2 sets of screws. That's not right. It seems to be ratcheting. And it's allowing it to go both forward and backwards when it shouldn't. That's how I just assembled the wrong arm with the wrong wheel.
Ah.
So forward. Yeah, but not back.
Oh, good.
Forward, but not back. Okay, it's 2 feet assembled then.
Yes.
These legs go on the front.
Yes.
It's a bit tighter with the paint on that. Those are on. Those front legs are on. I put the back legs in. I wonder what screws they used.
I couldn't remember which screws I put in the back feet. So what I did was I partly dismantled another Hedgehog and we could see what screws it used and that they had washers with them. So that's allowed Paul to put the screws in for the back feet here. So you put the speaker in on the bottom there. So that plastic component goes in first like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that plastic component goes on top.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. Okay, then we use what appear to be some of these screws. So it's 3 short, fat screws that hold the motor gearbox to the body.
The first one goes there. It's the second one.
And one down there.
That's the third one.
So that secures the motor and gearbox to the bottom of the body.
It's the short screws of the washer on that you're screwing into the circuit board. The other one goes there. So put the spring back in.
Not sure if that's on there, yeah. Okay, so the spring's back in for the nose return mechanism.
So you're reconnecting the yellow speaker wire now.
Yeah.
That goes into that yellowy coloured one on the side.
It's got the logo SPK for speaker in.
Right.
Okay, so that's that in. So we won't connect D1 and D2, which go to the eye amber diodes, because the LEDs, because you've got to do some more work on the face.
Yes.
I think then what would make sense would be to assemble this mechanism here.
Unfortunately, at this point, we realised that this 3-part plastic mechanism had fallen off the gearbox casing after Paul had disassembled the Hedgehog. So it should have been put on first before he did any of the rest of the assembly. So unfortunately, he had to disassemble everything again in order to put this 3-part plastic component in.
And that stays inside, and it's these other 2 that form the bit that goes through the pink part of the body somehow. That keys into there like that.
Right. So Paul, you've assembled it as much as you can before working on the face.
Yes.
So I've removed this original silicone face and then I've used latex on it to make a mould. So I put latex all on the front of the silicone face and around these pieces here. And this is what it looks like. So what we've decided to do, it's a non-standard thing, it's experimental, but we've decided to try to sort of paint a thin layer of silicone on the inside of this, because obviously this silicone face is very, very thin. So we want a thin layer, don't we?
Yeah, maybe build it up in a few layers to that thickness.
So that's what we're going to try and do next. So we weighed out equal amounts of the 2-part silicone and mixed it together. And then we used the brown, yellow, blue and black pigment to get a nice brown colour. Once we were happy with the colour, we then transferred it to the degasser to get all of the air bubbles out of it. Some colour. And then I tried coating the inside of the latex mould with it, which was easier said than done because it kept just running into the centre. So Paul suggest again the hairdryer out to try and help it to set, semi-set, so that it wasn't running all the time. So that seemed to work well, and it set enough so that we could then fill one of the ends with some more silicone and then use a hairdryer to help that set, and then did the same with the other side. So this is the point that it's at now. Just basically waiting for it to cure. I wonder if we should get the hairdryer on this a bit more, Paul.
Could do that. Why?
Well, it's still very sticky at the moment. Just thought it might speed it up a bit. So we're going to get the hairdryer on it a bit more. The silicone has just about cured. It's still a bit sticky, but I've removed it from the latex mould, and I'll show you now how it's turned out. I'm really delighted with it. It's not perfect. Round the nose it's not gone round the nose properly. That's to do with it being too thick, I think. But I didn't even know if it would be serviceable. So I'm absolutely delighted with how it's turned out. And what a great copy of the original it is, and how the eyes can still fit in and the nose, and it can still fit around stuff. It did get a tear here, and that's where it was very, very thin, the silicone. But overall, it's far better than I thought it would be. So now we're going to power everything up and see if it's still working, because it's had a bit of a hammering, the wires, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been taken apart, put back together a few times now, and things have been stretched and bent and pulled. And so one of the weak parts of the toy is the wires as they go into circuit boards on solder joints. So we're just going to make sure everything's still okay.
It's basically testing the LEDs, that they are still okay, and testing the soundboard.
Okay, we'll turn her on then.
Okay. Oh, looks lovely. They like the eyes are sort of like golden. Really nice.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you seem to be making a
3 second.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Good.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's the test complete. I think the next thing will be soldering the
orange
wire
back to the touch sensor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then the next thing will be mounting the microphone.
Yeah, so to do that we're going to make a hole in the grey plastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're going to use a hot tube to put that hole in, Paul, for the mic.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh wow, that was quick.
Just taken a core out. Very neat.
Yeah, fantastically neat job that. That's brilliant.
So the idea is to wrap it in a bit of foam like this.
Yes.
And then stick the foam to the
hole.
The hole, yeah. The plastic around the hole. So we've got the microphone encased in this little foam tube. Just going to let that glue set on the back, and then we can stick the foam tube to the back of that hole there.
So you're going to put some glue on the sponge and some glue on the plastic on the head.
Yeah.
And let it tack off.
Yeah. And then we're going to stick it on there like that.
Yeah.
And let it set.
why have you put sponge on it, Paul, did you say?
Because if you mount the microphone directly on the shell of the toy, any mechanical noise caused by the motor and the gearbox operating tends to get transferred through the shell, like vibration, and the microphone picks it up, which is not really what you want. You want the microphone just to respond to sound from outside, i.e. our voice. So it helps minimise that. So we just bring these two components together. It should stick and hold. Just got to allow it time to set now.
So there it is in situ. How long do you think it will take to set, Paul?
About an hour.
So you're going to put a bit of glue on that?
Yeah, to help the solder joint where it just leaves the foil. Well, it's the wire actually to help it stop breaking. So we'll just put a bit of glue on there.
Yeah, that's for the forehead touch sensor, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So this just goes around the weak part of the joint and helps to give it a bit of a mechanical strength when it's set.
So it's the belly sensor to be soldered back on.
Touch
next.
sensor, yeah, which is
this. Yeah, the belly touch sensor.
Orange-brown wire. Okay, so both the touch sensors go next to one another on the circuit board.
Right.
I think they're labelled S1 and S2. S2. Oh no, it's labelled S3. So S3's here and S2's there. Okay. Okay, so that's the belly touch wire back onto S3. Put the head back on then.
So you're soldering the touch sensor on to S2 first.
To the forehead sensor going back on, touch sensor. Okay.
So the final screws are going in now. So that's what he looks like, folks. Unfortunately, it's got too much fur on and it's too tight. So you can't actually move like that.
But if we perhaps take it apart, take the shell off and just give it a haircut on the inside,
yeah,
it'll probably be okay.
Oh, bless it, it thinks it's just stood up on its head. It went ta-da. So you can see it's a dramatic change visually. That's what it looked like originally, and that's what he looks like now. So his touch sensor on his belly's certainly working, because you can make him sigh with contentment and giggle. So folks, that's it for this project video. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you'll join us when we do an update on this hedgehog, when Paul does some more trimming of the fur so we can get him rolling again. But that's it for this video, folks. Thanks for watching as always, and hope to see you next time.